Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of art. It's the Tenet Podcast. I'm Todd Pearson, and back in the co-host seat this week is the notorious WDB. You know him as quite possibly the most interesting man in the world, my partner and friend, Wes Brown.
Todd, how you doing? Oh my God, I missed the last interview, but I listened to it because I edited. It was a wonderful conversation with John. I was so sad that I wasn't able to join you. But I'm back and I'm here for this one, and this is going to be great.
I am extremely pleased that you're back in the co-captain seat this week. Hey, I know you have a birthday. When this airs, you'll already have your birthday. So I'm just going to take this opportunity and wish you a happy birthday.
Aw, big 6'1". I'm the last of the boomers, just so you know.
You're at the tail end.
I'm at the tail end of the boomers.
The ass end of the boomers.
Or just an ass. Oh my God. Lord. But it is good to be back. I appreciate you. I was really expecting an email from you saying, you know, Wes, since you were gone, I feel like I kept the flow pretty good, and maybe you don't need to be back.
Man, I like you as my wingman. I like you being there, interjecting with your commentary and your good questions. So I'm glad you're back, and I appreciate you editing that last episode. Yeah. And it was a good time with John, but we definitely missed having you in the mix. So before we get to the art, I just want to take a minute and remind everyone of the exhibition happening this month at Bit Factory Gallery. Bit Factory and the Tenet Podcast present West by Midwest, featuring the work of Shannon Mello, Megan Wilbar, and Mark Zimmerman, all phenomenal artists that have been featured on the podcast. West by Midwest opens December the 16th and runs to the 12th of January. Bit Factory Gallery is located at 851 Santa Fe Drive, Denver, Colorado, 80204. Look for more info on both the Bit Factory and the Tenet Instagram and Facebook pages. All right, our guest this week is the Curatorial Director of Bell Projects Gallery here in Denver, Colorado. You can check out the Bell Projects website at bell-projects.com, and you can follow Bell Projects on Instagram at Bell_projects. Welcome to the program, Lindsey Bell. Lindsey, how are you?
I'm so good. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, we're incredibly excited to talk with you. You've been on our radar for a while, and it was very nice of you to agree to come on and spend a little time with us.
Yeah, it's so great to get to talk about art. That's what I love.
Let me start out by asking you how long Bell Projects has been in existence.
So I'm actually coming up on my 2-year anniversary. So I started Bell Projects in 2020, kind of planning for the first exhibition in the fall of 2020, and then had the first one in December of that year. What a great year. Let's look back and think about it and remember. But so it's just coming up on 2 years, and it's amazing. It feels like it's been so long, like 20 plus years, but also just a blink of the eye at the same time. It's been a really cool just whirlwind of everything. So
talking about opening a gallery in the heat of a pandemic, your timing, was you just ready to pounce before that and it just kind of serendipitous, or how did you pick to open in 2020?
So I was in the beginning of 2020 working at a big museum, and then COVID hit and I lost my job, which actually was amazing silver lining because I never would have done this if it weren't for that fact. It really kind of lit the fire underneath me. And I've been talking to a lot of my artist friends, and the community just felt so supportive at that time. And yeah, it just felt like the right time. And I was really encouraged by a lot of friends and everything like that. But it was also a weird time to do that. I imagine doing this thing like many years into the future after an illustrious, really long, curatorial career in a museum or something, and that just wasn't in the cards for me. So I'm just so thankful that it happened when it did, because it's been super fun. And I think what COVID has done for the art world, at least, is like make everybody kind of come together and support each other even more. So it has been just really awesome, really cool.
Yeah, and I would think, opening a gallery during a pandemic is a risky business. Are you typically a risk taker?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I am so like, not only just type A, like I have to know everything ahead of time. I'm very plan oriented and all these kinds of things. So doing that in that kind of uncertainty was a bit of a challenge. I think, many of us had no idea what was going on in that year in particular. So almost it felt like, I guess, why not? But that's kind of the first time that I had ever done the kind of why not, kind of let's jump into the deep end kind of thing. And I really wouldn't have been able to do it without the encouragement of friends. Yeah. So I have a good support system around me, and not a risk taker by nature, not at all. I'm very calculated.
Well, kudos for you. So, I mean, that's amazing. So great. That's awesome.
What is the mission of Bell Projects? Do you have like a kind of a mission that you set out, an idea, a vision of what you wanted this to be?
Yeah, I think, not being a nonprofit, I don't have like an official mission statement, but my general mission is that I want to support and exhibit local artists and try to get to maybe the artists that haven't been shown before or are kind of on the cusp of, something great. I don't want to say like the unknown or undiscoverable or undiscovered artist, but, just kind of breaking away from the same types of artists that we're seeing in other galleries. I think that's one of my strong suits is focusing on that kind of, group of artists. And it's been really, really cool to just meet new people and learn about their practices. And I think my mission really, just at its basic sort of level, is just supporting local. And that's what I care about. And that can look at a lot of different ways and take many shapes and forms. And it evolves, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And that makes sense that it evolves, because what you think it is at the very beginning, 2 years in, is probably not exactly the same as where it started, right?
Yeah, for sure. Just in the sense that when I started, I had the gallery in a different location. So I've moved into a new, improved 2.0 kind of version of the space at this point in the gallery's history. The first space that I was in the RINO Art District, which is really great for, the proximity to everything art related there. But I just had some growing pains there. It was very DIY and felt like a starter space. So to be able to move to now be in a more structurally sound location in City Park, that's been the biggest change to allow me to do more and evolve and just be able to serve and support more people and everything like that.
And what prompted that move? You were running out of space, or your lease was up, or?
My lease at the old space was month to month. And I always felt like it was that way for a reason, that like we kind of know what's going on in RINO right now. Like there's cool artist run spaces or warehouses and stuff that disappear and turn into high rises and all of that. And I think my lease was that way for a reason, is what I was kind of getting the sense that, at any point the next month I'd be scrambling. So I wanted to get out ahead of that. And I kind of it was on my radar to look for a better space, an upgrade. And I had some friends in the building. They have artist studios in the same building where the gallery is now, that just kind of like hit me up one day. And they're like, I don't know if you're looking for a different space. I didn't really put it out there, but they were like, yeah, just come take a look. And I did. And it worked out just really perfectly and very, right place, right time kind of thing. So I feel very lucky for them and for the space when it was available.
Yeah, pretty fortuitous, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the funny thing about working in the arts, I don't know, as weird as it is, or I don't even want to really admit it, it really is about the who you know kind of thing in a lot of aspects. And I'm so thankful for the network that I've been able to create and sustain here in Denver. People looking out for you. And it's the same thing I was talking about before, the support that I feel like has just grown so much in the last couple of years. Like we all have to look out for each other. So it felt pretty good to have some people in my corner and doing that, like looking out for me or thinking of me, and I hope to return that in any way I can every day. But it was really nice to have folks thinking about me for this space.
Yeah, that's really cool that artists and friends that you knew were keeping their ear and eyes open and thought of you and obviously respected what you were doing with Bell Projects and gave you the scoop on this new space, which is spectacular.
Thank you. Yeah, it's an upgrade for sure in every sense of that word. I had to think about things that I never thought I'd have to think about as a curator, like weather considerations at the last space. Like if the wind was too windy one day, or how I'm going to hang art because of the wind. I don't have to think about that here. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a nice little space. I've been in there before and I really like that and love the, windows in the front and looks nice.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a dream come true. That's for sure.
Now, did I hear you correctly just a few minutes ago? You are a nonprofit?
No, I don't have that distinction. So
you
I
don't. Okay.
Like as a nonprofit, you would have an official mission statement. I still have like a mission and a goal with what I'm doing, not being a nonprofit. So that's in the works, like further down the road. I'm a one woman show over here. So I got a lot of work to do to get to that distinction, but it's definitely on my mind and would be beneficial for the business for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely some benefits to having a nonprofit for funding and, getting some different kind of grants to help, offset some of your costs. But I would say probably the lion's share of galleries are for profit anyway. So,
yeah, I feel like I could go either way. A lot of the galleries that I look up to have nonprofit status and, I'm not making a whole lot of money anyway. So just to kind of, I don't know. I think it would just serve me a little bit better and be more mission driven and that kind of thing, which I have certain values that I really care about. And it's more aligned with a nonprofit organization than it is for a for-profit. So I kind of run myself that way anyway, without the official distinction.
Talk about what art does for you.
So art does for me, essentially why I do what I do, because I surround myself with art and work with artists on a daily basis. I think art, just at its essential sort of fundamental core, is a way for folks to express themselves in ways that words can't, and to be able to connect with people, in a non-verbal communication sort of way. I know that's really general, but I think it's really important for how, as I'm speaking with you right now, I'm trying to come up with the words to communicate. And that's oftentimes a difficult sort of thing. I think everybody struggles with those kinds of things of how to express themselves verbally, but somehow art can hit us in a different sort of way and, do things that words can't. And it's really important. So that's what art does for me. And as I answer that, I think, I'm almost answering it and what does it do for other people? Because that's so much of what I do in my daily life working in the arts is for others. I do consider what it does for me, but really I'm thinking about what does art do for other people? Why does it matter? Why does what I do matter? All of those kinds of things. And it's really important. So I really love what I do, and I feel very lucky to do it.
So how long have you been wanting to be in the art? Is it something that you kind of developed as a child, or is it something that came to you later?
I've been so lucky, just being able to go to museums and being exposed to the art world from a really young age with my parents. Every family vacation that we went on, instead of being at the beach, we're at the local museums and stuff like that. I just had that exposure from an early age. And then I've been working in the museum world and art world for the last 12 years. So, just kind of started out my working career. I mean, I was in the service industry. I waited some tables, I bartended and all that kind of stuff. But I really got into the arts at the same time as my side gig a little bit years and years ago. So it's just always been a part of my life. And I feel just so lucky to have that be the case, because I know, and one of the things that I think about a lot is that that's not the case for everybody. And how does everybody else approach or experience art is something that I think about all the time in what I do, because it's not the case that they had exposure to it from an early age or anything like that. So
is art for everyone?
I don't think art is for everyone, and that's okay. I think oftentimes, an art or art settings can be intimidating or not so approachable. And to think that art is for everyone is that it has to be some kind of prescribed or regimented formula that we all have to take or subsume or something like that. And I don't think it has to be for everybody. I think everyone can be an artist and can be creative. We are all creative in different ways. I do believe in that side of it. But no, you can absolutely hate something that you see that's artistic, and that's allowed. Or it kind of invokes some other reaction that's invited and allowed and okay. So art doesn't have to be for everybody, and it shouldn't.
But can everybody appreciate art? I guess where I was going with that is, do you feel do you need to have an art history background? Do you need to know something about art to appreciate art?
No. And I think that's where, so art can be for everybody in the sense that you don't have to have any kind of preconceived know-how or knowledge or history background or any kind of anything like that. You can have a reaction to it, and that's the most important thing. And that can happen for anybody. You don't need to know the artist. You don't need to know their bio or their intention or their artist statement. I think you can just see something and react to it, and that's the most important thing. And honestly, I wish I had a lot of that a lot of the time, to see something without all of that background or context, because it's more of a real feeling, I feel like, a lot of the time. So in that sense, yes, art can be for everyone. Everyone should see something and have a feeling about it.
There's multiple ways of looking at it. So I think you did a great job answering both ways, because, depending on how you're looking at it, art isn't for everybody. And I mean, I've walked in galleries and going, I don't understand what's going on here. And so sometimes art statements are good, but other times you don't need, like you said, you don't need it. You can just see how it makes you feel, what is evoked from it. So.
And I wanted to ask you that question because it's been a little while since we've had a curator on. And it's something that I think about all the time because we have people that listen to this podcast that prior to this podcast, they really had no interest or didn't know anything about art. And I think it's one of the misconceptions is that you have to know something about art to appreciate it. And so I kind of wanted you to speak to it from your viewpoint as a curator, as a gallery owner, and with the art history background, that, hey, it is for everybody, that you don't have to know all the stuff. You can just go in and appreciate it for what it is, or not appreciate it. Like Wes said, like, it's quite all right not to like something just because, your friend likes it doesn't mean you have to like it, or somebody that likes, that is into art, likes it. That doesn't mean you have to like it. So I'm glad you spoke to that.
Yeah, I mean, one more thing about that too, that a lot of the work that I've done in the last decade plus working in museums is considering how, museums are big institutions, and it already is a pretty big barrier to even go or have an interest of going, and spending time, spending money, spending travel, all these kinds of barriers that might prevent someone from going to an art space like that. So there's already a lot of those things, but if you can, so what are we doing that might be, less intimidating or less of a barrier? And what I think, something that I think that I'm trying to do here at Bell Projects is just create a really comfortable setting, throw really cool parties. Everybody loves a party and have a DJ, and like make it the least like stuffy art thing that you think is the art world, is like this, sterile kind of setting, and just, have it be inviting. I'm in a neighborhood where there's a lot of foot traffic, and there's a number of folks that come in every day that are just, curious about what's going on over here. And it's great having those conversations. The range of conversations that I get to have with visitors that come in is just really important, and kind of confirms the exact point that art is for everybody. You might react or interpret things in different ways, and maybe not even get it at all, and that's totally fine. I think that's an acceptable takeaway too, that we oftentimes don't think about. But all of those things are so valuable to me. I think meeting people where they are and trying to offer different sort of levels of entry into a space, into a specific work of art, into an exhibition, having some different kinds of entry points is really important to me in thinking about those kinds of things.
Do you like the people that just didn't even know that there was a gallery there and walk in off the street and all of a sudden are mesmerized by what's hanging on the walls?
It's one of the best interactions, because it starts with a curiosity. So I think that kind of goes to, almost like a childlike kind of feeling of wonderment and curiosity. And they come in and they're a little unsure. And as soon as they have like the invitation or the welcome, a lot of that softens, and, they're looking around, and every interaction is different. I think it's so just great to have it be an asset or a resource or any of those kinds of things for the neighborhood. It is kind of almost a beacon. Like if you're in City Park, you can see the gallery from certain areas. I like being that resource for folks. I don't want to go so far to say it's like a respite or anything like that, but I really do appreciate the people that stumble upon it, and the people that know about it and come specifically for the exhibitions or for specific artists. All are welcome, and it's a different sort of interpretation every time. It's really great.
Do you get more foot traffic in your current location than you did when you were down on RINO?
I really do. I think one of the advantages of the space that I'm currently in is that it has these huge storefront windows, and also the building's split. So my neighbor that shares the other storefront on the other side of the building is a clothing designer. Her name's Matilda. and her fashion designs are in the window. So there's always like the double take, the looky-loo type of foot traffic that just are caught by not only her designs, but what's in the gallery. So there is a lot of foot traffic, and it was pretty non-existent in my prior space. It was a little off of the street. I was at 35th and Walnut before, and I think the people that I was getting foot traffic for had Googled RINO Art District. And because RINO Art District has their offices in the same building as where I used to be, they would just kind of like come up like looking at their phones. So I kind of knew that that's what I was going to encounter before they even spoke. And it's just a different neighborhood. I mean, the mural street art scene is really strong and amazing over there. And there are several galleries that are very reputable and showing really good work. But it felt like it was time to expand. And I'm glad that I did.
I would think that parking's a little bit better where you're at too right now.
100%. Every aspect of everything, like lighting, heat, air conditioning, running water, and access to a bathroom. Yeah, I mean, everything. Lighting, I don't know if I said that already, but parking is a huge one. And it's much more chill in City Park than it was in RINO. That's for sure.
And I don't want to talk bad about RINO, but the one thing that does drive me crazy when I go down there is the parking situation. That will drive me out of my mind. And I have to like really think about, okay, do I want to, go around the block 5 times to try to find a parking spot? Or
yeah, you have to be strategic. And there was a parking lot like attached to where I used to be, but you had to pay to park there. So that already, I think, was a huge deterrent. And then the street parking, as we know, is few and far between. So that is a huge upgrade, big time, cool thing that I have going on for me now is not having to think about parking.
Yeah.
Plus, that whole building is a bastion of creativity. You have
Indeed.
all these artists that you're surrounded by in there.
It's so cool. I think, maybe speaking back to the old location, that was in a warehouse, like studio artist space. So I thought, I want to maintain that connection to other creatives and be able to go down the hall and ask a question about white paint and like, what's your opinion on these 2 different whites? And I had that at the old location, and I was nervous about letting that go, but I haven't. I think the kind of bond is even better here in this building. So there are 3 artists that work and have studios in the basement of this building. And then 2 different artists that have studios on the main floor where I'm located. So it just is like a really awesome community to be surrounded by that creativity every day. It's awesome.
So how many exhibitions have you shown since your start in 2020?
I did a count recently because I'm thinking about promoting this 2-year anniversary thing. So I was like, let's put the numbers together. I've done 20 exhibitions. I typically have like a monthly rotation of exhibits. I took like a couple months off in the first year just to kind of get some footing on some things. Otherwise, it's been 20 exhibitions. I think it is interesting, and I really did do the numbers, so I'm going to look it up here. So in the 2 years, it has been 20 exhibitions, over 80 artists that I've worked with, 332 artworks, and 2 locations, as we've talked about, and a lot of really fun times. So
that's really impressive.
Thank you. It's been just like kind of a whirlwind. Like I kind of said at the beginning, it feels like I've been doing this for many, many, many more years. And it's kind of amazing that it's only been 2, but at the same time, it's like, wow, it's already been 2 years. So it's at a weird kind of I think we all feel that way about the COVID times of like, what is time?
Right.
So, it's a weird sense of time and how things have passed and gone on for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of work to put that many shows on in a 2-year period, just period. That's just a lot of work. So I could see where it would just be a whirlwind, right? After a 2-year time span. And you throw the pandemic in on top of that, and yeah, time goes kind of out the window, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So now that you've been doing it for 2 years, how far out are you on your exhibitions? Do you have stuff planned for the next 6 months, year, or are you pretty close to, when you need to start another round?
I'm planned 6 months out right now. So I have exhibitions planned through the end of June, and we're seeing where it goes from there.
Perfect. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Thanks.
And what have you learned the past 2 years about having and running your own gallery? I mean, is there anything that you didn't know or didn't think about prior to deciding to go down this path and having your own gallery?
I think something that I'm really grateful and thankful for is that I have worked with artists in a lot of different settings, but very different settings from what I'm currently doing. So most of those settings have been in museums where there's a lot of time involved in planning anything and bureaucracy and all those kinds of just big institutional things. That what's just been really awesome doing what I do is working with artists on a more immediate sort of scale or level. I think what I've learned is really good people skills. I think, artists have this sort of stigma or, like unorganized sort of stereotype or whatever, but we're all just humans, and humans doing anything are unorganized or super organized. And there's the spectrum in between. So working with artists is no different. And it's just been really fun, each exhibition that I'm putting on for folks, whether it's a solo exhibition or a group exhibition, I'm learning something else just about working with people, which is super helpful in just a day-to-day sort of setting. That's probably where I've learned the most. And then I learned really specific things about the best way to install an artwork and like logistical type of stuff, because I do it all here and I pick up on different things every time, and it's really fun. I love doing every aspect of what I do. So it's a constant learning experience, and it's really cool for that reason.
That is cool. What are some of the difficulties that have been kind of thrown your way, curveballs that you've had to overcome?
I think there's always like the way that I have something envisioned of, let's say, a timeline or a plan. I have certain expectations or ways that I see it happening. Okay, this day is going to happen, or this day is going to be installed. The next day is going to be something else, and like kind of planning out day by day. It never goes to plan. And I know that, and being flexible and knowing that something's not going to go the way that I ideally want to see it has been super helpful, and just honestly letting things go. Does it make it more difficult? Yes. But, you run into those, and if you can anticipate those speed bumps or anything like that coming up along the way, then it just makes the whole process easier to work in the extra time potentially for something to go wrong, or I don't know, just a lot of building. I think the biggest thing is just building extra time. It helps alleviate problems when they arise because you can work with more time.
So now, do you give people, like, you build in a little bit of a buffer, maybe have them drop off a little bit earlier than when you would have at the beginning of opening your gallery? Like now you build in that little bit of a buffer, so if things go sideways on you a little bit, you still have, you're not pulling out your hair at the last minute.
I already was building that in when I started the gallery, because prior to opening the gallery, I've done a lot of curatorial work in like bigger group settings. So there's a lot more moving parts. and all these kinds of things. And if you don't set appropriate deadlines, then it's a runaway train at that point. You can't rein it back in or anything else like that. So I think I learned from mishaps prior to the gallery to help me make sure that I'm giving myself the appropriate amount of time now, which is, sometimes more than other of my contemporaries are giving themselves for turnaround time in between shows. But that's okay. I don't want to lessen that window anymore, because it just makes me nervous. There's always something that comes up that's unexpected that you are thankful for that extra day.
It's always good to have a plan, but it's always good to, be able to pivot, right? And to have that little bit of a buffer if you have it built in. And yeah, flexibility is the name of the game, I'm sure.
Having that backup plan is very key. That's for sure. The plan A and the plan B, always.
So your curatorial work, has it always been in the art, or did you work in some other different types of museums?
I've always worked at art museums. And then I've also, my professional career, I've also worked at different just cultural institutions. So for a stint, I was working at the Botanic Gardens. I do part-time work right now for Colorado Ballet. So other, arts adjacent or different kinds of arts, performing arts, different things like that. Kind of always been involved with those things as well.
And all that experience helps, I'm sure, in doing what you do now, right? Having those different experiences and learning from those things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think, being different sort of art media that you're consuming, or different kind of cultural aspects of the Denver art scene, let's say, the way that you encounter them or experience those kinds of things. A lot of the times I was working in either events or education. So it's the same sort of, how are we programming? How are we getting people in here to experience what we're doing? It's the same sort of considerations. So it's all helped to do what I'm doing now, because a lot of, it is the curation and the gallery, but it is also creating events and accessible kind of programming for people to experience the work in a different way. So I think all of the work that I've done thus far up until now has helped contribute to that skill set.
Were you doing programming from the very beginning? And what kind of programming do you do currently?
So programming, I kind of use as a loose term for events. Also, it kind of is a catch-all of, anything additional to the actual art exhibit. So I always have opening receptions. I consider that part of the program. Just making a really fun, cool party. Who doesn't like to come and have snacks and drinks and music and art and people and all that kind of stuff, especially kind of this whatever period of COVID that we're in, just kind of being more social and getting out there. So I consider that part of the programming. And then I also do artist talks. So I'll invite the artists that are on exhibit to share about their work. We have a dialogue. I ask them questions. They speak about their work. And it's a separate thing from the opening, because I think the attention sometimes at opening receptions isn't really suited for a more academic artist talk kind of setting. So we usually do those separately and get a whole different bunch of folks through the door to experience those.
Do you find that having those artist talks really help engage collectors and people that view the art? Do you see more sales after you have, or if you incorporate artist talks into the mix?
Yeah, I think something especially that social media has done is offer people, audiences, this inside view of an artist's practice, the behind the scenes kind of thing. We're all really itching to see what artists are up to beyond just the work that we see. So something that Artist Talks does, it gives that sort of personalized experience, almost VIP, of like into the artist's mind, that I think is really important. And, sometimes results in sales or just a stronger connection, stronger feeling for people to feel like they're connected to the artist. They have this insider's perspective after coming to the Artist Talk or hearing from them more directly. I can say so much about the artwork and explain it, but it just comes, or it means so much coming from the artist itself.
Yeah. And I even know from like personal collecting that if I have a connection to the artist, I'm more apt to buy than just seeing something and just pulling it off the wall without knowing anything about the artist. So another question I have talking about Artist Talks is it usually about the artists and their practice, or do you ever talk about themes or have multiple and then talk about a thematic subject matter?
I think we often get into both. I think it's really important for an audience to understand who the artist is and where they're coming from and how that informs their work. That's super important for folks to hear about. And then, it's also a kind of like a cool thing to hear about specific pieces, because we're in the space and we have the work around us. It naturally kind of devolves into that, talking about the specific pieces and the themes and, how it would inform a series and all that kind of stuff. It's honestly a natural progression to talk about the artist and then how it reflects in their work. That's usually how it goes.
And when you're curating, are you curating thematically, or are you just like selecting artists that you want to curate? Do you come up with a theme and like, okay, what artist would connect with this theme?
Sometimes if it's a group show, that's how it will work. So I have a show that I'm really excited about coming up in May. The theme is bread.
Oh,
the most simple theme. And I'm really excited to curate a show around food and not get too deep into what that means, but it can be deep into how you feel about bread, but it's just about bread. So that's a kind of show where I look for specific work around a theme. More often than not, it's talking to artists that I admire or, want to show in the gallery. We have several conversations about what their work is like and how it would be suited for the space and that kind of thing, what they want to show. And we kind of go from there. So that happens in a lot of different ways where artists will reach out to me. I'll reach out to an artist. It's a suggestion from a friend of a friend of a friend. It happens in a lot of different ways, but I think more often it's more starting with an artist than a particular theme. I've done a handful of shows where it was that sort of thematic and then who's fitting that. But even then it starts with someone that I'm thinking about that fits that theme. Then I build out that theme further with more artwork.
And do you do a lot of studio visits?
I do. And that's like, I don't know, every aspect of what I do is so cool, but I love the studio visit. I think it's just a insider's perspective, a little window into someone's practice. You really get to see not only their artwork, but who they are as a person, how they have their space, where they work, what inspires them. It's so much more than just seeing the work. And a lot of really cool conversations come out of those visits. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely one of my highlights of the whole process.
It's pretty fascinating, right?
It's so cool. Everybody has a different setup, how they like to work, the parameters and how they work. It's all very particular. It's really cool.
It reminds me of our discussion with Rose Frederick when she goes and she does a studio visits and she's like snooping around looking for stuff that's not up and hidden in closets and finding the kind of the hidden gems that they're not really talking about.
For sure. I think, you're kind of scanning the room a lot of the times, and, artists will set up the studio visit how they want to. And, but then there's oftentimes like the little thing to the side and you're like, oh, what's this? What's this over here? We're talking about this, the main feature, the main focus on this wall or whatever, but I want to know why this is over here. So there's always something, little tells,
Yeah. That's cool.
Like a treasure hunt, huh?
Kind of, yeah, for sure.
Tenant wants to acknowledge our media sponsor, New Magazine. That's NUE. You can follow both the national and the Denver edition of New Magazine on Instagram. The national edition can be found at new_magazine, and the Denver edition at new_Denver_magazine. And I want to share with you something very exciting. Check out the newly launched New Denver Gallery Guide. Look for the signage that says New Denver Gallery Guide that has a QR code. Scan it with your phone, and you have instant access to a comprehensive digital guide to Denver's finest galleries and exhibitions. Find this QR code in your favorite gallery, hotel, or coffee shop as you visit and explore Denver. Thanks for listening.
I'm Lindsey Bell, and you're listening to the Tenant Podcast.
Westword Magazine named Bell Project as Best New Gallery 2022. How was that? Did that help get people into the gallery once you got that recognition, or was it kind of the same?
I think it helped establish my new location where the gallery currently is in City Park, because I was very worried to move and then have people not follow me to the new location. So that helped establish like what I'm doing is cool. And it was a total surprise. It was one of those afternoons that I was like running around doing things. I wasn't paying attention to my phone at all. And like, I look at my phone after an hour or something and it's just like blowing up. All these people are like, oh my gosh, did you know that you got this? And I did not. So it was like a humongous, amazing surprise. And just really cool accolades to be able to have that distinction. Yeah, totally unexpected. And I think it's just helped in like, I have the little plaque in the gallery. So visitors, whether they know about me or not, they see it and they're like, that's cool. So, I think it's helped a little bit in just driving more traffic and the just knowledge of the space.
It's nice to have that validation, right? Like, hey, I'm doing something good. Obviously,
Absolutely.
It's people are paying attention.
Yeah, for sure. It's really, really cool when you think that no one sees you or no one knows that you exist. They do. So it is a huge validation. It's really awesome.
Outside of the typical gallery business model, do you do other things? Do you incorporate other things into your business model to help make this thing go?
I think so. The gallery business is dependent on sales, and those are oftentimes unpredictable. So the biggest things that I've had to think about in making this sustainable is where is my income coming from? So I rent the space out for events, which helps support the gallery. And if someone wants a birthday party here, that's great. It's a cool space for a birthday party or any other kind of event. So I've been doing that. And, I have a 9-to-5 job in addition to the gallery. So that's helping me support the gallery as well. It's a hustle. I love it. And it's the kind of cliche thing. If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. But there's a lot of work also. But I really love it.
And that makes all the difference in the world. It's still work. And, people that probably see other gallerists go in the galleries, they probably think, oh, this is so glamorous. They're interacting. And it is glamorous to a certain extent. But the flip side is they're not seeing all the work that goes into it.
Yeah.
It's like it magically happens, right? And that's just not the case.
It's not the case. I think there's a lot of behind the scenes that, I'm working full time for the gallery in addition to my other full-time job, but it's a labor of love. And I think it ends up being successful in the sense that no one perceives that hard work, as much as I would want to receive that recognition and like acknowledgement. Oh, you're working so hard, Lindsey. Oh my gosh. I think it's more successful when they think it's so seamless and like effortless. So that's how it kind of feels. And yeah, to make it look effortless, hopefully I'm doing something right, I guess.
Yeah. So can you talk about your day job?
Sure. So I am the membership and program administrator at Art Gym. It's at 14th and Leiden, and it's basically an alternative space for artists to have studio space. So artists pay a monthly membership to access the space, and they get access to equipment, and they bring their own materials. So it's really popular with printmakers and metalsmithers. We have a lot of painters. So I'm in charge of all the membership and programming over there. So I feel super lucky to be able to work with artists literally on a daily basis. It's so cool. And to support access to art making is really important to me.
Yeah. And that's cool that you have a day job that is still in the art world. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. I've considered where else my skills could be useful, but this is where it's at, and this is what I love doing. So I hope to be able to do that kind of thing. And I feel very lucky that I can be in the field. Every day.
Yeah.
So you throw that into the mix with running a gallery full time. That's a lot of work. So kudos for you. Kudos to you for what you do and for what you give back to the community. I mean, that's one thing that we haven't talked about yet is that, having an art gallery, it really does. And especially where you're at, it provides, a place for people to congregate, to have discussion and conversation and, meet other people, connect. And that's all really important. And that's what art does for people, right?
Yeah, that's what I hope for. And it feels really cool to be able to do that. So thanks.
Yeah, you're anchoring that part of the city.
Yeah. Thanks.
So speaking of community engagement or involvement, are most of your artists that you show, are they local Denver artists, or do you venture outside the area?
They're mostly local to Denver and the surrounding areas. So definitely Colorado based. I think the first time that I'll kind of venture from that, I mean, I care deeply about that. I'm from Denver. So it means a lot to me to be able to support local artists and do that kind of work for folks here. I think the first time that I'll venture away from that is with this bread show in May. It's an open call. So if someone from outside of Colorado enters, they'll be considered the same way that someone locally would. So I'm excited to kind of open it up to other artists. But for now, it's just super important for me to support local. And I think the collectors and folks that are visiting the gallery really care about that as well. Again, it goes back to that connection of feeling like the artist and have a personal investment in their work, in their practice, and what they're doing if they're from where you're from or where you live. So it's really important to me to have that kind of proximity built in.
And it looked like a lot of your previous exhibitions were contemporary artists and some abstract. Is that kind of your main focus, or do you go out? I've seen some photography too, or do you go outside those themes?
I think, very basically, they're all contemporary artists. It's folks that are living and working as working artists right now. I've shown, representational, more thematic shows like that, abstract. It ends up being a lot of painting, but I've had photography and sculpture, mixed media, and I have a lot of different stuff coming up as well. So I think just by chance, it's been a lot of painting, but I feel like there's a lot of painters out there. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not stuck on a theme or any kind of other parameters. I want to mix it up as much as I can.
And then how do you like artists to approach you? Or are you the type of gallerist that wants to go out and find them?
I work in both ways. I think if an artist approaches me with a really clean like proposal, an artist statement, and a vision for what they want to do, and are amenable to, where does that fit in the context of this gallery? Can we work on that at all? I think that's really shows a lot of effort, and that goes a long way with me. And that can just be emailed to me. I think the other way that I approach things is I invite artists and I kind of get the ball rolling on my side, but it happens in a lot of different ways. There's no set parameters or submission process or anything like that I adhere to. It's just pretty organic.
Being a curator, that's an art in itself. But are you an artist yourself? Do you do art?
I get asked this question, I think, on a daily basis. And it's harder for me to answer than I would encourage everyone to consider themselves an artist. I say that to others, and yet it's so hard for me to say, yes, I'm an artist. But I am. I totally am. I love creating. I think the biggest thing that I do artistically is the curatorial work that I do and the arts advocacy. But I also, when I have time, I also like to weave and I sew. So I do a lot of fiber arts. I dye fabric and yarn and create that into functional pieces mostly. And that's where I am an artist. But it's still hard for me to say yes.
Well, you are an artist, and I did check out your Etsy page.
Oh, thanks.
So, yeah, and I enjoyed seeing what you create, and they're really lovely and beautiful. So,
thanks.
I just wanted to get that in there as well.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a little known sort of. I spend a lot of my time advocating for other artists and really doing what I do to serve others. So it is a weird seat to take, that title of artist myself, because I'm very used to being in the background doing the work for others. So I appreciate that.
You talked about your early engagement with art. When you were young, did you see yourself owning your own gallery? Is that something that you saw as in your youth as a child?
Yeah, definitely. It's really weird. I've always been kind of a mini adult, kind of business minded, and had a curiosity of when I was going to museums, like who's responsible for doing all of this work? Obviously it's the artists that are making the artworks, but when you look at all the wall text and the supplementary material, how things are hung and all that kind of stuff, I think I just had a really strong curiosity about those kinds of things from an early age and wanted to be involved in that and do that in any way that I could. Yeah, it's just it's like an innate sort of calling, I guess.
So you said you went to art galleries and museums as a child. What's a piece that you saw for the first time that just like blew you away?
So I guess, maybe stereotypically, but I think I was like 10 or 11 and on a family trip in Paris. And we were at the Louvre and we went up to the Mona Lisa, as you do. And I have pretty bad anxiety. I have all of my life. And I was so upset that I wasn't upset. I was just like frustrated with all the people and they're holding the cameras and you can't even see it. And it's so small. It's smaller than you thought it was going to be. And like all this hoopla around it. And I think before digital cameras, so I finally got up to the front and I'm just bawling. There's like tears rolling down my face. I'm just happy, excited, and also frustrated at the same time. Just too many emotions for a friggin' 10-year-old. And there's this one snapshot of me, and I'm just like smiling, but there's tears streaming down, and I'm in front of the Mona Lisa, just having the time of my life and also the worst time of my life at the same time. So I think that was kind of a moment where obviously there's so much hype around this one painting. We all know this. It's the most recognizable painting in the world. And you have all these expectations built up and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know, just too much pressure on the whole moment. It's a time that I get to revisit often because of this snapshot of myself in front of it. And it was the same trip. Like, we went to the Notre Dame and all of that. And what was it? In 2018 or something, when the Notre Dame caught on fire, and I had an emotional day when that happened. So I was revisiting all the pictures from that trip and kind of resurfaced all those emotions from that trip. It was so artful and really informative of the work that I do now and the care that I put into what I do, I think.
And maybe you answered this by the Mona Lisa, but is there a piece that you were like so excited to see? Maybe, but let's put the Mona Lisa aside, that when you finally saw it, you're like, it was kind of a letdown. Has there been anything?
I think that's probably the biggest one, honestly. I don't know that I've ever had any other letdown. Like in my undergrad, my thesis was vaguely about Van Gogh. And I took a bunch of classes in independent studies about, his letters and all that kind of stuff. So when I got to go to Amsterdam and go to the Van Gogh Museum, it was closed for renovation. So it wasn't even open when I was there, but they had the whole collection at a different museum. So I still got to see the potato eaters. Like, I was as excited to see it in this other museum, probably with not the ideal lighting or setting or curation or anything as it would be in its natural setting or regular setting. And it was still, awe-inspiring. Like, I love his earlier works where I think they're lesser known, but have so much more humanistic sort of feeling imbued in them. So that was, it wasn't a letdown at all. It was actually maybe the opposite, maybe a pleasant surprise.
Right.
Because going there to this other setting, this other museum, having that collection, maybe that was a letdown. So my bar was kind of low. So then anything that I saw after that was like even better than I could have imagined.
Yeah, that's amazing. It is amazing when you have expectations, whether they're pretty low or pretty high, and then the reality, when it sets in. Like, if you have a pretty low bar, you can get pretty excited about something that you weren't expecting, and vice versa. So
yeah, I think that was the case in that particular time for sure. My bar was set very low, no expectations. This is going to be dumb. And then it turned out to be very, very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what's your favorite? Is Impressionism your favorite, or what's your favorite movement?
I really love symbolism. So it's kind of around the same time, but I don't know. That's a hard one for me to answer because I really love performance art, and that's pretty newer thing, and how it's been recorded and available for audiences to see. I think that's really important about making that kind of art accessible, because, performance, you have to see it as it's happening or you miss it until it was able to be recorded and shown to a wider audience. So I'm really interested in that. And that's a fairly new sort of thing. I love Gothic architecture and Gothic art. So that's a totally different era and setting. If I didn't go to school for contemporary and modern art, I probably would have studied Gothic architecture and Gothic art. But probably, I think modernism in general, kind of starting out with Impressionism being the really radical movement, is a really interesting time. And a lot of different things were happening at that time. So to kind of, I guess, go back, I will agree with you. I think it's just such a radical time of how people were thinking and seeing and portraying what they saw and felt. That's so important for our history, and just kind of shifted our whole perspective on how we see and feel about things. So yes, to answer your question.
All of the above.
Yes. I love art.
Yeah, well, and you're an art historian. So where did you go to school? Where did you get your undergrad?
So my undergrad was at the University of Colorado in Boulder. So I studied art history there. And then after working for a little while, after college, realized that what I really wanted to do required a little bit more schooling. So I went to the School of the Art Institute in Chicago for my master's degrees, which are in modern and contemporary art history and arts administration. So, but I'm from Denver, so I moved around a little bit, got a different flavor for other things happening, and I'm just so glad to be back doing all of this here because it's just that much more meaningful for me.
Nice. So who's the most overrated artist? I want an answer too. I don't want you dancing around it.
I know. I think so. Where I went to school in Chicago at the School of the Art Institute, every single day from my office, I saw The Bean, which is actually called Cloudgate, by Anish Kapoor. I believe he still holds the title for the wealthiest or most well-paid artist. And there's all the things of, him copywriting and taking all these claims of like the pink is pink and black is black, like having ownership over colors, which I think is just absurd. And why would you restrict others from using, it's a color. You can't have ownership over a color. So I think he's really overrated. And, but his works are cool. I mean, it gets people to interact and feel something that they maybe wouldn't otherwise. So it does that, but I don't know what else it does. I think
you're still dancing a little bit. I appreciate the fact that you're such a nice person and that you won't cut it.
It's hard for me to have a straight answer about that.
That was a good one. It was good.
I don't know. I think, we all have or maybe we don't all, but I have my things against like the Jeff Koons of the world. They're just these big time folks that have a huge studio. Are they ever actually making anything? I don't know. And just profiting off of these, blue chip artist type folks. And I don't know. There's something more to art than that.
Yeah. So Damien Hirst and all those.
Yeah. I think, there's something to say about the kind of provocative nature of some of those artists and just the creating a spectacle that I think is, I don't want to say important, but interesting for an artist to do. It's part of the art that they're making, I think, is this persona that they're building. It doesn't come down to just the works at that point. It's this ego behind it. And is that good or bad? I don't know. It gets you talking about it. And if people are talking about art, is that better than not? Probably. But, there's just so much swirling around that. And I guess it's the ego that I wish these bigger art guys weren't getting so much notoriety and we could shift some of that attention to people that deserve it. So, right. Yeah, that's a way of dancing around it.
There you go. So who's the most important artist of the 20th century or 21st century? Contemporary artist. Who's the most important contemporary artist of our time?
Well, that changes it a little bit.
Oh, I want to hear both then.
I was going to say Andy Warhol. I don't like his work, but I think he really flipped the way that we think about art, period. I think it was revolutionary what he was doing and I don't really care for his work, but we can't deny that it had a humongous impact on society, like where art kind of ends up influencing things more than politics, more than current events. It kind of goes concurrently with those or tangentially. So, but contemporary artists, I don't know. There's so many great ones. I think Kehinde Wiley is one of my faves. The most famously President Barack Obama's portrait artist, and just the ways that there's some ties to classicism, and then how it's being viewed in a contemporary lens is really important, and reframing those kinds of motifs and the content and everything. I think it's great. And there's so many awesome local Denver artists that I'm just cheering on, and their cheerleader in the background. There's so many great ones. So
a lot of good stuff going on in Denver.
It's so great. It's so cool.
So I got to ask you, since we're asking your opinion on different things here, how do you feel about these climate change protesters going in and desecrating? Did I steal your thunder there,
That's
Wes
great,
Brown?
man. No, we're on the same page.
Okay. We usually are. We usually do have some of the same questions. How do you feel about these people going in and either gluing themselves to the work, throwing paint, cake, any number of things on these, masterpieces?
I think it's really friggin' cool. I think it needs to be done. I think it's a way to get attention. We're so bound to social media, and that's the way that we're all seeing that these things are happening. And I think largely, my concern is that they're damaging the artwork. I think largely they're actually not. All of these artworks are like so well either protected or conserved, or they have the conservators on staff to be able to fix them. So I don't know. I hope that they're able to make the statement that they want to without actually damaging these works. I don't know what the impact, we're all seeing it, so there's got to be some impact. But I think it's cool. I think it's radical. I think, how else are we going to get the attention? And if it has to be this way with precious, unique items, I don't want anything to be damaged, but at least it's getting it on some people's radar that need to be seeing it. So
it almost seems like some of it is strategic in a sense, like the Van Gogh, right? It's covered with glass, so they couldn't have damaged it. But at the same time, when the shock value of it, I guess, and that's what they're going for, I was kind of appalled. And there was a part of me that wanted to say, okay, well, if you're going to glue yourself to this, then it's a free for all that what happens to you while you're glued.
That's true. It obviously becomes performative, and they have, I'm sure, I would imagine people staged to record the thing. It seems kind of circumstantial or consequential that someone's just happens to be recording, while these things are happening. So it's all orchestrated.
Yeah.
And I think, being I love performance art. I think it's really important. I think it's where we maybe kind of meet in the middle of how we receive or interpret art. Because to an extent, we're all kind of performing in our daily lives. So it's more palatable. There's a shock value too, and it's on social media. So it becomes an influential kind of content that we're consuming. How can you look away? It's a train wreck.
Right. And we like train wrecks.
We love it. We cannot look away. So I think it's rad, and it's going to go down in the history books, and hopefully something positive comes out of it. And we're not just consuming this content and these things that are happening, but we're actually making change. So,
well, it's definitely having the impact that they want. Todd, do you have an opinion? I'm kind of, and probably it's because I'm old. I cringe when I see it. So, but that's good.
I cringe as well. But at the same time, I'm very passionate about, making climate change, taking it seriously and making some change so that, hopefully our kids, our grandchildren have a world that they're still here, that we're not going to off ourselves in the process. But yeah, it does make me cringe when I see, the stuff on social media. But at the same time, like Lindsey's saying, it's radical. And if that's what it takes to make some change, then I guess I'm for it, especially as passionate as I am for the environment and the whole climate thing.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. I liked your answer, Lindsey. I thought I was surprised by it, to be honest with you. And I appreciate the frankness about it and the openness about it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I think it's exactly that kind of cringe-worthy content that makes anybody do anything lately. We see and are exposed to so much media and content, and it has to really push you over the edge to make a difference a lot of the times. So I don't know. I just think it's important what they're doing, and it's too bad for art, but how else are we going to get attention to it? So
yeah. And it sounds like as far as I know, nothing has been damaged permanently. So
yeah.
And I guess the reality of it is that humans are the ones that make art. It's not that I'm sure you can YouTube a panda painting or elephant painting or something like that. But I mean, art essentially is created by humans to make our lives better or what have you. But the reality of it is that, if we're all gone in 100 years, none of this is going to matter anyway. Right. So.
Yeah, there's things that are more important than art. And art is important, but obviously there's way bigger issues at stake, way bigger things.
Would you do it?
It would be really hard for me to do that. Knowing that, I think, again, if it's performative, knowing that the artwork is actually safe in the end. But I'm a very by the rules kind of person. Like, yeah, I probably would not. I'd be the person behind the phone recording. I'd be like, yeah, you go do it. I'll be here in support. I'll be the getaway car.
So do you think the galleries have any, do you think they're working with them?
It doesn't appear to be that way. I actually hadn't considered that. I think it would be pretty bold to say that any of those like museums or galleries where that's happening, that they were in cahoots with any kind of management. I don't know.
The reason I say that is because, especially early on, it just seemed like, you're walking into an art gallery, or a museum with, a can of soup, and that's not setting off any alarms. And then, it seemed like, wow, they've been sitting there for a while saying their piece, and there's no security telling you to don't touch the artwork. Where I've been to like the museums in Chicago and Denver, and there's people standing there saying you're a little too close. So anyway, it's just kind of funny.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I don't know. I've been in those positions before as a gallery attendant, and at low security places. And I don't know, if someone walked in like that, I'd be questioning it, but maybe not having any kind of true authority to prevent it or stop it. Or if it was like a buddy of mine and they're like, hey, we're going to come on Tuesday, you're going to be there. I'd be like, okay, cool. I'm going to pretend not to know about it.
Right.
So maybe there is some kind of like agreement or something. It's hard to tell. Yeah. I think, at that point, once they're making their statement, what can you even do?
Right.
They've done the most damaging thing at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
That's a great question, Todd. I'm glad you asked that. Even though I had it written down, I'm glad you asked it. Good question.
you touched on, where you went to school and where you got your bachelor's and you did your master's program. Do you feel like that the time that you spent getting that education, was that well worth it? Did it give you a good foundation for what you're doing now?
I think it did, in the sense that where I went to grad school, I was really lucky to go to an art school, art specific school. So I was surrounded by artists on a daily basis, whether I was curating shows for them there or teaching like budding artists, 18-year-olds, just being fully immersed in a artist kind of setting was super valuable. And in a place like Chicago, like there's just so much going on and so many opportunities and just really, really cool stuff. So it felt like an amazing community. I think that aspect was the most beneficial, just on a lifestyle basis, day to day, just having that immersion. Whereas, I mean, going to CU for undergrad, being a non-art specific school, I got that. Their art school, great. But there were a lot of other things going on that were not art specific, which is fine too. I think it feels really well-rounded in that sense, having both of those experiences.
What did that education not prepare you for in the real world?
I talk a lot about this with the MFA folks that graduated at the same time as me, and that it's a little too not preparing you for the real world of like selling art as an artist or doing what I'm doing as a curator. I think a lot of the focus was more on conceptual, thematic kind of why are you making art, which is really important for an artist to consider, but it's not really preparing you for like, this is how you get into a gallery and this is how you sell your work, or this is the reality of being an artist. It was kind of a little too flowery around the nitty gritty kind of aspects of the art world after graduating. That's the only thing that I feel not unprepared for. I think I have a lot of experience in that area, but that's just kind of the sense that I've been given from some of my the things that I feel unprepared for out of school are those kind of real world scenarios of how to make a living in the arts, which is already pretty hard.
Yeah. But you yourself have done pretty well, and you've had some it looks like some pretty interesting experiences and at various art institutions prior to where you are right now. Talk about some of those and talk about some of the things you learned from having those experiences.
Yeah, I think just having every kind of job within the art world, it feels like. So having a huge appreciation for just everything that goes on to support artists, to create an exhibition, to do all of those kinds of things. Like I kind of mentioned before, being a gallery attendant, just like standing for hours every day, telling people not to touch things is not the most fun thing to do, but it gives you a different kind of appreciation for the art and being able to talk about the art because you get a lot of questions about things. I've had a handful of internships where you're doing cool decision-making type things, but then you're also shredding paperwork and getting the mail and making copies and all those kinds of typical things. So I think it, in the range of experience that I've had, has given me a really good sense of everything that's involved in making all of this happen. Because oftentimes in the arts, we just inevitably wear multiple hats. You end up taking on multiple roles and responsibilities. So, it prepares you for a lot in that sense.
That real life experience counts for something.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I've done it all. I've taken the trash out, mopped the floors, done all that kind of stuff. And I still do that even now. So it's humbling. It prepares you for a lot. There's, I guess, you know, it had been mentioned before, this glamorous sort of ideal. There's glamorous parts about it, and it's really cool. But a lot of it is taking out the trash and mopping the floors and doing all those nitty gritty types of things, shoveling the walkway outside. So there's no small task. There's no big task that I can't kind of handle or take on. It's all together.
And you've had the opportunity to spend some time in some other places. You spent some time in Austin. Is Austin, is it a pretty big art community there?
Austin was really cool. I was there for 3 years. And I really missed having seasons there. I think that was the biggest thing. It's just sunny all the time, and then it's not for like 2 months, and then it's sunny again. And it is pretty good for the arts. I think most notably, it's good for the performing arts and music. We all are familiar with like South by Southwest and the music festivals that happen in Austin. So they're huge supporters, and a lot of the funding goes to more music things and visual arts. But I think for the most part, compared to other places in Texas, it's a really good art scene, really a lot more DIY, like kind of grassroots, smaller scale type of stuff, which makes it really fun. At least when I was there, and that was already several years ago. So it had a cool, just kind of chill vibe for that reason.
And you spent some time in Sweden. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I lived in Sweden for just 6 months. I moved there in January, so it was like very dark all the time, but it was really cool because every week that I was there, it was just getting lighter instead of darker. So, but by the time I left, you know, the sun wasn't going down. And I studied Swedish art and Swedish music and literature while I was there, and also a little bit of Swedish too. But all the Swedes speak English, so it was actually hard to get a good handle on Swedish, but I know a little bit still.
Do you have Swedish in your blood?
I do. I have Norwegian and Swedish ancestry, mostly European, all across the board. But a big portion of that is Swedish, which is just cool to have that connection and to have spent some time there for sure.
And are they interesting artists?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of really great filmmakers and that kind of media from Sweden. Really, I mean, across the board, painters, sculptors, yeah, it's all really cool. They have a different, I think, way that they view the world and interact with the world that is fun. It's a dry humor. So a lot of that is imbued in the work that I like.
The stuff from their culture really carries through into their artwork.
Yeah, and I mean, thinking about what it would be like to live in a place that's dark, like for most of the day, for a significant part of the year, and then the opposite of that, that's like super light and the sun doesn't set. I mean, that's totally different from what we experience. So I think a lot of just kind of looking inwards and outwards, this connection to nature, and it's very strong there. Yeah,
that locale, right? Like very different than what we experience here in Colorado, you know, with all the days of sunshine that we get. Living someplace that far north, definitely, like, it has an effect on you. I can relate to that. I grew up in Alaska. So, you know, having lack of sunlight for, you know, a good portion of the year, and then 3 months of like nonstop daylight, it does something to you.
Yeah.
Whether it be good or bad, but it definitely affects you.
Yeah. It's more of a conscious sort of thing that you are going through your day to day being aware of than I think most of us are wherever else we are. So
Would you go back?
Oh yeah, tomorrow, immediately, if I could. Yeah, for sure. If I could figure out a way to be there full time, I would.
Oh.
Wow.
But I love Denver, so I'll be here for a while.
I did see a picture on your Instagram of a picture of you with Peter Forsberg.
Yes, he's my first crush, my forever crush. He's the best. I'm a huge hockey fan. I went to a hockey game last season, like towards the end of the season, and he just happened to be there at the Avs game. So they showed him in the stands, and I just about lost my shit. I was so excited that I was like in the same building again as Peter Forsberg. Yeah, he's pretty awesome. I love hockey.
Well, you share that in common with my wife because she told me that he's the only man that she would leave me for.
So I have competition, is what you're saying?
Yes, you have competition.
And not to mention his wife too. So yeah.
But I thought that was funny. I thought that was cool. Funny. I had to ask you about that.
I know, it's one of my cherished mementos.
How old were you there?
I was
young.
10.
I was going to say, I was going to guess around 10.
I think they still do it. The Avalanche do this benefit luncheon for a children's hospital called Avs Better Halves. And it's just this, they just make an appearance and they make a bunch of money. People pay to go and, like a luncheon gala thing. And then they do a fashion show. So, and then each of the kids, there's like patients from Children's Hospital will get to go on the runway with an Avalanche player. And it's just a cool fundraiser. So I think they still do it, but that's what that was for. And that was in 2001. So heyday, the Peter Forsberg golden years.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would you say have been some of the highlights in the last couple of years in running and having Bell projects?
I think just the different people that I get to meet and work with. It feels really cool to be involved as much as I am in the art scene here. And just when you think you've like done everything or like met all the people you need to meet, there's more. So it just is always changing and kind of evolving. And there's just really cool people doing similar sort of things. I think that's a huge highlight. I think, I'll say it again, just the support that I've received from folks. All of the accolades and kudos have been really rewarding, and it's, it is all for like the cool like instances when a visitor comes to the gallery and they get something really amazing out of the work that they're seeing. They have a connection or, experience something unexpected, some kind of thing that someone can walk away with that I can see visibly or that they're sharing with me. The impact that it has for them is a huge highlight too. It makes everything that I do worth it. And, a much smaller scale, it's like a 1-to-1 kind of, I'm sharing it with one other person, but it's hugely impactful for me to know that I'm making some kind of difference or doing something for someone like that.
Yeah, it's got to be incredibly rewarding.
It's so cool.
So as a curator and gallerist, what kinds of support do you provide the artists that you work with?
Anything within reason that they would need. I think what's really cool is that I get to work with artists that are in varying levels of their career. So it's not always expected that they have an artist statement and bio and really good images just like at the ready. Like, not everybody has that, and that's okay. So I think that I'm offering a sort of resource sometimes to get that material together, to, get it all ready to go. I think just giving artists a chance to show their work is huge. I want to say that that's a resource that I'm providing, getting people in the space, different kinds of people to see their work. You know, it's one thing to bring your followers in to see something that they've already seen, but to get different kinds of people, to get neighbors, to get different audiences, get their eyes on that is something that's really cool. And all the promotion and all that kind of stuff that goes with it too. So
whereas other galleries want their artists or the people that approach them to be ready to go, right? You're happy to mentor and do a little hand holding, if you will, if need be. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if need be, you know, ideally someone has that all ready to go, but I know that's not realistic. And I know that that can be one of those sort of factors that is intimidating, or you don't know the correct, you know, way to go. And I think something that I don't require is this knowledge of how to do that, you know, that's unrealistic. So I'm happy to meet people where they're at, and give advice and mentor and all those kinds of things. That's important to me to be able to offer that as a resource, as a service.
Now, you obviously have a lot of relationships with a lot of different artists already in the 2 years that you've been doing this. Are you looking to kind of build your own stable of artists, or is that down the road, or do you even care? You're just happy to show up and coming people that you want to see get traction? What's your philosophy on that?
I think, you know, I think about that a lot, and where my time and energy can go towards any direction really right now. Not that I feel like I'm in a pivotal place, but it's something that I'm constantly evaluating. And I think what I'm doing feels right. I think supporting, you know, up and coming artists or new, fresh voices, fresh in the scene kind of things is important to me. To have more of a cohort or representation down the road is something that I've considered, but it's not anything that I'm really strongly considering at this point. I think there's certain other things that I want to be doing before I just commit fully to that kind of model.
And you've put on 20 exhibitions since you started, you said. And this is a difficult question because each one of those is like your kids, right? But is there any one of those or a group of those that kind of stand out in your mind that you were really kind of like happy the way it went off, or really proud of those particular exhibits because of how it all came together?
Yeah, there's, I mean, like you were saying, they're all awesome, and I'm always excited for the next one, the same that I was before. I think the one that sticks out for me the most is, it was actually the second exhibition that I ever did. I had a lot of leeway time to prep for it. It was in May of 2021. It was called Memento Mori, and it was about death. An interesting topic for myself. I think it was one of the times where I've really been able to curate and explore a personal interest, and kind of dive more deeply into taboos and all those kinds of things. I had a really nice write-up about that exhibition, so it just brought a really diverse array of visitors to that show that maybe read about it in that newspaper or heard about it otherwise, and allowed them the freedom and the comfort to share their own associations or personal connections to death. So it became it was already an emotional exhibition to put on, but very kind of taxing, but also rewarding one to do, because I almost it was in certain circumstances almost like a confessional. Like people were coming to it and having such a strong reaction or feeling about it and sharing that with me. I haven't felt that to that extent since then. So it was really meaningful to be able to provide something like that for folks. Yeah, it was very meaningful and impactful.
I bet, because like you said, that's one of those things, at least in Western culture, we don't really discuss that much. Death is kind of off the table, but it's the great equalizer, right?
Yes, we're all destined for it. So, and I mean, art is a really great way to kind of overcome those hurdles or difficulties in talking about it. So it did everything that I wanted it to, and more that I wasn't even expecting, which was successful in my opinion.
Yeah, when you can get people talking about a difficult subject, having that kind of conversation, that's the power of art right there.
For sure.
What kind of commission model do you work off of? Is it similar to what most galleries do, where it's a 50-50 deal, or do you do something different?
I do a little bit different. I'm a 60-40 commission split, so I take a 40% commission, which is a little bit different, but essentially the same model as other galleries. I just want to give a little bit more to artists for what they're doing, because they're giving up so much and putting so much into it.
I love that. That's really cool that you do that. And I think that's really neat. I know, of at least one gallery that does that, and they're all about the artists, and that's what I get in talking with you this evening, and the little bit I got to talk with you before. I get the sense that you're about the artists, and you believe in what you're doing and what you're facilitating. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's exactly what I want to be doing and portraying.
Obviously, for you to keep your doors open, you got to make some money. So, and same with artists, like artists, need to make money in order to buy materials. Their time is worth something, and it's important. So how do you feel about the whole money art mix?
It's a really difficult thing to navigate. It's so unpredictable. When I think a show is really strong and everything's going to sell out is when it doesn't. So it's hard to have anything kind of be sustainable, which is just really frustrating, because being about the artists, I want to support them as much as I can and guarantee a certain amount of sales or anything, and it's just impossible to do. So that's why I've kind of sought these extra supplemental kind of forms of income with the gallery, to make it sustainable, but not putting that burden or fee or anything on the artist, because it is still about supporting artists. And yeah, they don't have to pay to exhibit here or anything like that. It's just that kind of commission split. So that seems the fairest model for me, and just feeling good about what I do.
So what do you do with your money? This is my Bob Raglan question. Did you know Bob Raglan? Did you ever meet Bob? Bob was one of the inspirations for this podcast.
Oh.
But what do you do with your money when you have a successful show, when you sell out? And you just touched on it, that it's difficult to predict. I mean, we hear this all the time, not only from galleries, but also artists, where they think that they're on to something and it falls flat, or they're not feeling good about the work, but it sells like hotcakes. So you just can never predict it.
Right. I think when I have a really good show, I take a minute to just take it all in and be thankful for what I'm doing, and put a little bit more money into savings. That rainy day fund could always use a little bit more. So and then realizing that it can be fleeting. Like you can have a really good day, really good exhibition, but the next one might not be. So to be prepared for anything that comes your way, I try to just be smart about those kinds of things. And, but also like, okay, if I need to buy something for the gallery that I've been putting off until a bigger return, then yeah, okay, I'm going to go do it then and get the nice new trash can or something like that. I'll splurge a little bit for those things after a good show. But that's about as far as it goes. And just, yeah, being really humble about it and not too like waiting for the other shoe to drop, but just a healthy amount of that.
Well, I think that is healthy, preparing
absolutely.
for the lean times so you can, ride those out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's very smart. Have you always been a saver?
Yeah, I've always been a planner. I'll put it that way. So, and even venturing into the, what's going to happen if it's really bad, kind of like the worry, the anxiety, planning for the worst. So almost venturing there, but being a saver, being a planner is kind of in my nature for sure.
Right on. Obviously you are selling work in the gallery, but do you have online sales? Do you do much online stuff?
I do. Not so much. So all of my online platform still is inquiry only. So it just is a way for me to create a relationship with a potential client, with a potential collector. It feels a little too cold for someone to just put a really amazing piece of art into their shopping cart and just check out without having that interaction. And it also, just very fundamentally alleviates the kind of, well, I didn't know it was that size. Like, what did you send me? Well, it said it in the description, but it alleviates some of those maybe unhappy customers by having more of a connection. So I do have everything listed online and it's all viewable. If you're interested, it just creates a contact form that gets sent to me, and then we start a conversation and figure out how to get it to them. So,
do you help artists price their work? Do you try to stay within a certain price point for your audience?
Pricing is probably the biggest question mark for artists and me alike. I think there's just, as soon as you think you have a handle on it and have a good sense of how things should be priced, you're getting something else that makes you question that confidence. So I do help artists with the understanding that, everyone saying anything about pricing is all a suggestion. Unfortunately with art, there's no like standard for pricing. So, but yes, I absolutely help artists with that. I think the price point, it's always important to me within an exhibition to have things that are a range. So more affordable pieces with larger, more expensive pieces, just kind of meeting everybody's price points. That's important to me. Yeah. Nice.
I agree. And some artists sell prints and some people don't. So it's nice if it's all original work to have, a variety of price points to offer your audience.
For sure.
What do you think artists do well and where do you think they fall short?
I think, one of the things, kind of going back to one of the previous questions, is what I can do to serve artists or what I do. Artists should be solely focused on making the work. And I think, that's what they should be doing the best. I think sometimes, it's harder to talk about your work or something like that. So that's maybe that middle ground of what some artists do really well, what some artists, it's just not their thing. And it doesn't have to be for everybody to be very verbose or eloquent about what they're doing. The art should be saying that first and foremost. But everybody's different. So it's not a general sort of every artist is this way, good with these things or not so good with other things. I see the whole huge spectrum because we're all human beings.
Yep.
They've been talking about a recession for over a freaking year now. Right. And it kind of drives me out of my mind because I feel like it's almost like they willed this thing to happen. Have you seen any difference in sales over the past year? And do you think if you do, is it based on what we're hearing in the media?
I don't know. I think art is interesting, and I can't remember where I heard it recently, but I was talking to another gallerist in town, and I was kind of asking the same question to him, like, how did you fare over the last couple of years? And something that he said resonated and felt true to an extent, in that, like, this time that we've been spending more at home, like we're more focused on creating a really great environment where we live. So in that sense, I don't think art has suffered as much because we want to invest in really nice things for where we live. It's hard to say how I personally have experienced that, because every month, I mean, the whole time that I've been in business has been during the pandemic, so I don't have a really before times litmus to compare to. And every month fluctuates. There's no rhyme or reason. So that's a hard one for me to answer. I think the interest in art and the support for art is the same, if not more. Whether or not people are investing in it and buying it just comes down to the specific artist or the specific show.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
almost untouched from the pandemic. Sorry.
Yeah, and most artists that we talked to said that they did really well, at least that first year of the pandemic, almost to a T. So they all said that it was one of their best years, if not their best year, which I thought was really interesting. And that's actually a question we haven't really asked that much.
No.
And this year, I guess we should ask that a little bit more and kind of see where people are at, see if it's changed at all for art and artists.
Well, maybe we're waiting for the bottom to fall out since they've been talking about it for a year.
Yeah.
Talk about this exhibition that corresponds with your anniversary. This opens what will be tomorrow, December 2nd. Talk a little bit about that and who's involved.
Yeah, so this exhibition, it's an ever-evolving sort of concept that I've had to host a residency that then culminates in an exhibition. And it's really cool. I'm very excited for it to coincide with my anniversary this year. So I've invited, together with our guest curator, Emily Rohn, we've invited 10 artists to participate this year. We provided the canvas, the material, and the only parameter was that they would all be the same resulting size paintings. But it gave the freedom to the artists to create whatever they wanted. And after those canvases were created and I was talking to a lot of the artists that participated, it was really amazing how common or recurring this idea of being free to create something totally new or different or step out of your comfort zone just kept coming up with everybody. And that wasn't intended. It was a really amazing outcome. That's kind of what I was hoping for. But it was cool that actually happened. So that exhibition opens on December 2nd. 10 local women abstract artists. And it's just evolving every year. So I did it last year with just 3 artists. And it just is kind of growing bigger and bigger, which is really cool.
So on the roster, we have, do you want to tell us who all's participating in this?
Let me make sure that I remember everybody. So we have Angela Craven, Christina Davies, Mila Garcia, Ariana Hoke, Madeline Job, Precious Kofi, Gwen Marie, Christine Nguyen, Sarah Noel, and Emily Roan. And all these artists are local to Denver or Boulder or have affiliations kind of within those two cities and the surrounding metro area. And it's just a really great bunch of artists that I'm so excited to show.
It sounds really interesting. I'm excited to see it in person. So, the press release that you had on your website, are those all the pieces that we're going to see?
Is. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. This looks phenomenal, just so you know.
Thank you. Yeah. It's just been amazing. All the similarities or differences where people kind of came together and created sort of different or similar color palettes or themes, or totally different. Anyway, it's just been cool to see it come together.
What other exhibitions do you have coming up in the new year? You talked about the bread one in May, I think it was. What else do you have on your calendar?
So I'm scheduled or booked out through June. So I have mostly painting coming up, solo shows, group shows, really great, cool stuff happening. Just this last September, I also, actually the room where I'm sitting right now has become another gallery space. So now I have 2 gallery spaces within the building. So I'm able to support that many more artists at once with this additional space. So I have multiple people that I'm working with every month, which is just so cool and exciting.
So I didn't realize it. I kind of overheard when I was there for the opening of Vote No Vote in your space, but you actually have that other space. You're calling it the living room. Is that correct?
Yeah. So originally it was just kind of my office space and lounge. It functions more as like a viewing room from past exhibitions. So I would hang on to some pieces from previous shows and make it kind of like oh, you missed the show. Well, here's your chance to see some work still. And it was working fine that way. I think it wasn't exactly performing the way that I wanted it to. So I reconsidered. I had an artist approach me and she wanted to show work. And I said, well, I don't have space until July of next year. But wait, let's rethink how this living room could work. So I've called it the living room gallery because I have a couch set up. I have my TV and fridge in here. And it's really kind of a sweet, like, just kind of intimate setting where I think you can envision how work might look a little bit more easy in your own house. We all are familiar with how artwork looks in a white wall gallery, but this gives you a little bit more realistic flavor of how that can, translate into your own space. So I'm really, really happy that I have gone this direction and gone this route with having this as an additional exhibition space, because it means I can help that many more and showcase that many more artists.
I love that. I love that concept.
Thanks.
Since you have your own gallery, it's probably, and you have a full-time job in addition to running the gallery, it's probably difficult to get out and see other shows at other galleries. But when you do get out and you get the opportunity, what are some of the galleries you always like to hit?
So actually at my other job at Art Gym, we have this gallery crawl program that we do every month. And I selfishly love it for myself because it is hard for me to get out and do things. So it keeps me accountable to go see things and have it be kind of structured and that kind of thing. So it's a little bit of an ulterior motive and having that set up that way. But recently I love Understudy. It's underneath the convention center at 14th and Stout downtown. I also hit up David B. Smith and K Contemporary while I was downtown, because why not? If you have a parking space, take advantage of it and see all the things in Lodo. I love Dateline. I look up to them as kind of my equal or my kind of contemporary, and I love their vibe and what they're doing over there. Similarly, like Union Hall, I think is a really cool space. Different way that they're exhibiting work with the black walls, not exactly your everyday experience of art, but I think it makes you think about things a little bit more when the setting's a little bit different. And I love Redline, and I also love going to the MCA and the Dam. So I do make time for all of those things, even being as busy as I am. It's important for me to get out and see all the different stuff. So
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's always interesting to hear what other people like to get out and see. And yeah, that's a good list of galleries right there. And a little secret, going down to David B. Smith and K Contemporary, you can always find parking down by K Contemporary if you go during the week. So
yeah, I have my secret hidey spaces too. I used to work at a restaurant right around there too, so I have my ways around it. But it's not the easiest part of town, generally. But we make do.
Anything else that you're looking forward to in the coming new year in 2023?
I think, being as busy as I am, I'm so excited for all the exhibitions that I have coming up. And I'm also looking forward to building in time to not work and just take a little bit more time for myself and being more aware of that and still being able to do what I do. So being able to balance that a little bit more and it won't be perceptible to any other person but myself, just not working all of the time. That's something I'm looking forward to, is taking a little bit of time for myself and still making it all happen. So.
And what does that mean when you take time for yourself? What do you do?
I mean, I work 7 days a week. So if I can just take like a day off is like huge. And that can consist of, I always used to think like doing nothing is unproductive and it feels wrong to just sit and do nothing. Totally relearned that doing nothing is actually great and super productive. Not only for mental health, but just recharging physically. So yeah, looking forward to that. Maybe taking a day off and having someone sit at the gallery for me, or, run an errand for me, asking for help, learning that that's okay. All of those kinds of things. I'm getting better at.
Right on. Yeah. It's good to reboot, and you got to have those down moments, those times where you just take some time for yourself and don't do anything.
Yeah, for sure.
One last question before we let you go. If you could time travel, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give a young Lindsey Bell that dreams of someday opening her own gallery?
That's a really cool question. I think about this often, actually. Not that I have any kind of prepared answer for you, but I think, I don't know, maybe it's a kind of natural, thing to be like, oh, did I need to go to grad school to do what I'm doing? No. So I don't know if I would go back in time and tell myself, save yourself all that debt and don't go to school. Maybe. But I think in general, the biggest lesson and something that I can still tell myself today too is just be patient. Things will happen. I think for a long time I was really frustrated in how I felt like there was a lot of inaction or things that weren't going the way that I wanted them to. But all of those things ended up pushing me in the right direction for things to ultimately go the way that I wanted them to, if that makes sense. It's like the learning from your mistakes kind of mentality. So I think just having a lot of patience. I think I don't regret the choices that I made in, my major where I went to school. Sometimes I do, but I don't feel regretful today because I love what I do. I'm not making a whole lot of money, but it's worth it because it's very fulfilling in other ways. Yeah, I think the patience thing, I go back in time and tell myself to be more patient.
That's something we can all learn from, I think.
For sure.
Yeah.
Lindsey, thank you so much for spending some time with us this evening. It was an absolute joy to talk with you and get your perspective on things, some things that, some questions that Wes and I always have and have discussion about. It's been interesting to hear about your journey and talk about what you're facilitating with Bell Projects. And I really appreciate not only your time, but what you do for artists and the art community. Awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a real pleasure.
Yeah, we really enjoy it. And you're doing important work. I love the fact that you're supporting the local Denver artists and Colorado artists. So congrats. And I wish you all the luck in the world and continued success.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Again, get out this first Friday. Check out Parallels Women of Abstract Expressionism 2022 residency exhibition that opens tomorrow, December 2nd from 6 to 10 p.m. at Bell Projects. The show runs from the 2nd through the 18th. Bell Projects is located at 2822 East 17th Avenue, Denver, Colorado, 80206. And don't forget to follow Bell Projects on Instagram at Bell_projects and check out the Bell Projects website at bell-projects.com. As always, all this info and more will be in this week's episode notes for the Tenant Podcast. I'm Todd Pearson.
And I'm Wes Brown.
Have a great week.